Hello, Brian Turner here again with part 4 of the ACE Barre Chord System. In this video, we're going to discuss the dominant 7th chord. Now, this is going to be a very important conversation I'm about to have because there's a mass amount of confusion between the major 7th and the dominant 7th. You have two types of 7 chords, the major 7th and the dominant 7th. And if I had a nickel for every time I've had confusion with my students over this, I'd be walking in the big times. So if you recall the C major chord, let's go all the way back to the very first chord, the major. If you recall, the major had the first note of the scale, the first interval, the third, and the 5th. 1, 3, 5 is a major triad. And if you recall, we can bring the root down, the one interval down a half step, and that's a 7. And that's where you get the C major 7 that we did in the previous video. Now you'll see C major 7 expressed several ways. You'll see it written as C major 7. You'll see it written as C delta symbol 7. And you'll see it written simply as C with a delta symbol. All three of those chords are the same. That's a C major 7, meaning it has a major 7th. The major 7 is the normal 7th that you hear in the C major scale. Now here's where the confusion comes in, okay? When you see a C7 chord, that's a dominant 7th. The word dominant is taken for granted. Now, if you see, you'll always see just a C7. You won't see a C dominant 7. Now, you might see an old school book written in the 1950s where they'll say C DOM 7. Nobody does that anymore. It's just C7th. Okay, so the problem with the C7 chord, and what causes everybody to be confused, is the C7 chord does not have a 7. It does not have the major 7 like we had in the previous C major 7 chord. It has a flat 7, meaning that 7th note of the scale is brought down a half step. Okay, you'll hear it called a minor 7th. You don't have to worry about that, but just know that it's a flat 7. It's brought down a fret. So, if you recall, when we learned this at the very beginning, we had a C chord. We have a root there on top. Do you remember I told you if you bring that down 1 fret, you have a 7. That's your C major 7. Now, if I bring that note down again, that's a B. If I bring that B down to B flat, that's a C dominant 7. Or just C 7th. The only time I use the word dominant is when I'm teaching it. Now, if we were having a little jam session and we were teaching you some songs or stuff like that, I'd probably never say it's dominant. I'd say this is a C7, this is a D7, this is A7. You know, probably if we're in a rehearsal or something, probably the only reason I'd ever say dominant is if you're hitting a C major 7 and I'm trying to clarify. No, that's not a major 7 there. That's a dominant 7. But I could just as well say that's not a major 7. That's a 7th. Okay. So I know I'm harping on that a lot, and I'm repeating myself, but I have to do that I've had to do that with my students because it's something that I need to tell them over and over because it's hard to sink in. Believe me. So anyway, so we're going to do all three here. What's a C major? I'm going to bring that root down to a 7, C major 7. I'm going to bring that 7, which is the B note, down to B flat. See what I'm C7. And you hear those three chords together like that all the time. Something in the way she moves me, C major 7, C dominant 7, attracts me like no. You see, there's a lot of difference between the major 7 and the dominant 7. So, having said that, we're going to go C, major 7, dominant 7. If I come up here and make this C, again, there's the root, C, major 7, dominant 7. If I come up here, C major, there's your root, major 7th, bring it down again, dominant 7th. Now, although only one note's changing on those chords, the fingerings of the chords look very different from each other because you have to do whatever it takes. You have to accommodate the chord. Like for example, right there, I've got a C major. When I'm in a major 7, I'm bringing that note down, but I have to kind of change my fingering like this. And then when I go down one more fret, I have to change it again like this. So they look like 3 totally different chords, but they're not. The only thing that's happening is this note is going major, major 7, dominant 7. Okay, having said that, so now I'm going to go through 3 ways to make the dominant 7th chord in every key, just like we did in the previous ones. So here we go. You should see the graphics coming up pretty soon here. We're going to start with C dominant 7th, the one closest to the nut. The next one's here, and the next one's up here. Okay, there you can do that again. C 7th, C 7th, C 7th, back down, C 7th. I'm going to do that one more time. C 7th, C 7th, C 7th, C 7th, C 7th. Okay, now remember we're going counterclockwise on the cycle of fifths, so the next key is going to be F. The F7th that's closest to the nut is going to be this shape. F7th. Okay, there you go. Got the F7th. And then you've got this one up here. F7th. And then remember this one, and this one has the same root note, C7. F7th, I'm sorry. So we have F7th, F7th, F7th. Always remember this one and this one has the same root. My third finger's on it here, F7th. Now be careful on those. You only want to hit the middle 4 strings. See, I don't want to hit the 6th string or the 1st string. I'm just on that shape there. You're only hitting the middle 4 strings. See it on, and then you have this one on here. On this one, you don't want to hit the 6th string. You can hit the 1st string on that one if you want to. Okay, so you got F7 here, all 6 strings. Up here on the 6th fret, 8th fret, back to the 6th, back to the 1. Again, F7. So now that you're getting comfortable with the chord shapes a little bit, let's go through the rest of them. The next one on the cycle of fifths would be B flat. B flat 7th here, up here, up here. That one's kind of hard, but even on acoustic guitar especially, even on electric it's kind of hard. See? B flat 7, and then back here, and then back B flat 7. Next we have E flat 7. The closest one is going to be right here. Middle 4 strings only. Shares the same root note, 6th fret. No 6th string. Up on the 11th fret, E flats. Root on the 6th string. Back to here. E flat 7. Then we have A flat 7. Closest to the nut is this one. All 6 strings. Then you're up here, way up here on the 9th fret. Middle 4 strings only. And here on the 11th fret. This is kind of hard. Sometimes I'll use these 2 fingers, but you notice when the frets get real close, I'll use these 2 fingers here. I just kind of do whatever I have to do. Again, if you're on an acoustic guitar, don't worry about that one. And then here again, A flat 7. Try it again. A flat 7 on the 4th fret, on the 9th fret, on the 11th fret, back to the 9th fret, back to the 4th fret. That brings us to D. That brings us to D flat 7. 2nd fret, this one. Same root note here. Up on the 9th fret, D flat 7. Back to here. Here. D flat 7. Okay, after that, we have G flat 7. 2nd fret, root on the 6th string. There's G flat, up on the 7th fret. Root note's the same on the 9th fret. See, that one's kind of hard too, so I'll use these 2 fingers. Notice sometimes I do it like this with the 3rd and 4th finger. Other times I do it with the 2nd and 3rd finger. I find it easier when I'm higher up the neck to use these 3 fingers. Anyway, G flat 7. Do that again. G flat 7, G flat 7, G flat 7, G flat 7, G flat 7. Okay, so after G flat, then we're up to B, aren't we? Let's see. Make sure I'm not skipping any. Yeah. See, you have to make sure you know your cycle of fifths. Yeah. B. We've got B7 here. Up on the 7th fret. And way up here. Again, that one's really hard. See, that's way up on the 12th fret. Fingers all scrunched together, and I've got big fingers. But if I can do it, you can do it. B7, B7, B7. That brings us to E. Now, on E7th, I'm going to use an open chord. E7th. That's easy. E7, all 6 strings. Up on the 5th fret. Now, I like E because I can hit all 6 strings regardless. E7. Normally, you don't hit the 6th string on that chord, do you? But you can on E because it's an E7. That's why you hear that in everything. You know. You hear that in everything. Okay, and then up on the 7th fret, E7. Back to the 5th, and back to the open. Again, E7th, 5th fret, E7th, 7th fret, E7th, back to the 5th, back to the open. See? That brings us to A7th. Now we have an open chord, A7th. Here's an open chord. Then up here on the 5th fret, up on the 10th fret. Fingers scrunched together. Then back to the 5th fret. And back to the open A7. That brings us to D7. The first one's right here, middle 4 strings only. D7. And then up on the 5th fret. Remember, they share the same root node, don't they? And then we have the D7th up on the 10th fret. Back to the 5th. Back to the 3rd. And last but not least, we have the G7. All 6 strings on the 3rd fret. And up here on the 8th fret. Then up on the 10th fret. And back to the 8th. And then back to there. So there you go. There's all 12 keys, 3 ways to make the dominant 7th chord, which we're not going to use the word dominant because we don't have to. The 7th chord. Hope that helps you. Now, if you prefer a PDF where you can just print it out and just go over these on your, with your paper in front of you, if you go to the description below, you'll find a link that goes to a PDF of this. It's free, no strings attached. Just help yourself to it, share it with your friends, whatever. Basically, I'm just wanting to leave all this stuff behind when I'm gone. Okay, take care. Well, we'll move on to the next video, which will be number 5, which will be the major 6th chord. See you there.